So this was at the Rebbe's shofar blowing, Rosh Hashanah, in 770. Baruch Hashem, I had the zchut, the merit, to have many Rosh Hashanahs with the Rebbe as a little girl. We were stashed with snack bags to keep us quiet and well-behaved from Nash World. That really held us out. But I mean, of course, even as a child, it leaves an imprint on your soul, and you can just feel that holiness and remember it. So the Rebbe would blow the shofar for everybody, and he came up to the bima, and there were several shofars there. It was about the year 1970, and the Rebbe put the shofar to his lips, and for whatever reason, the sound was just not animating and wasn't coming out, and everybody, it was silence, thick silence, uncomfortable silence, long, and he tried a few shofars, and it was just like terse in the room of thousands of people there. And then after quite a few minutes, finally, this pure and piercing shofar blast. Many people use these few minutes for deep introspection while they were waiting for the Rebbe to blow the shofar. One young man relates that he was in the room, and as he was waiting for the Rebbe to blow the shofar, he did some soul searching, and he and his wife were married quite some years, waiting to be blessed with a child. And he started to think to himself, when we want a new blessing and a new life, maybe I should take on a new resolution. And he was soul searching, and he said, there's a certain publication that comes to our home, a magazine that we get, and it's maybe not so holy and so aligned with my greatest aspirations. And so this Hasidic man right then and there decided they're going to cancel. I mean, it was, nothing terrible, but it just wasn't of holy content. He's going to cancel that subscription. And sure enough, shortly after that Rosh Hashanah and the shofar blowing, he and his wife were blessed with a baby boy. And the following year was after the holiday of Rosh Hashanah, he came back with the baby, as a kind of a gratitude and a thanks. And he passed by the Rebbe after the holiday. The Rebbe would pour kosher bracha, which is wine of blessing. And he with his little, tiny baby boy. And the Rebbe poured the wine for them, and he made eye contact with this young Hasidic man, and he smiled at the baby, and the Rebbe said, at the kiyas yingale. This is a shofar baby. So the Rebbe was able to see, of course, with his extra soul powers, he was able to see that this baby came through that positive resolution at the shofar blowing time. So we can't even imagine, this tiny resolution that we make now in Chodesh Elul. We don't know how it could open new channels of life and blessing for each and every one of us. So Kitei summary, you see over here, there's 74 mitzvot in this parsha. So it's loaded with commandments and laws. The beautiful captive, right? If the Jewish men are fighting and they get attracted to a beautiful non-Jewish woman. Interestingly, the Torah understands the weaknesses of human nature, and Hashem gives us this mitzvah, right? Where he brings home this beautiful captive, and for 30 days she weeps in his home, and basically takes on customs of mourning, so she looks less and less beautiful. And this is really teaching us about emotional mastery, because you may impulsively, all of us, because we have an evil inclination and we can be just emotionally motivated, you can have a desire that is sinful, that has nothing to do with God and nothing to do with holiness. But Hashem doesn't say in the Torah straight out, it's forbidden, right? Out of the question. Okay, you're attracted to her, bring her to your home, follow all of these prescribed laws, and the objective was that the mind will kick in over the heart, and this, impulsive feelings of attraction will slowly die away as the Jewish man thinks to himself, do I really want to marry someone who's not Jewish, who's not aligned with my values, and who's right now not even looking so physically beautiful? Then it basically helps the person to have emotional mastery and realize, that there's a much higher level of attraction and marriage. So that's the story of the beautiful captive, the inheritance rights of the firstborn, the wayward and rebellious son that we talked about, burial and dignity of the dead, returning a lost object, sending away the mother bird before taking her young, the duty to erect a safety fence that we're talking about, which we're going to see, spiritually speaking, it's, of course, you have to be so careful about life and safety, but it's also the idea, the safety fence, of protecting ourselves spiritually by setting high goals. The fence over there is about the resolutions we take on for the new year that protect us from blood, from someone falling. So this is a very powerful idea Hasidically. You're going to see this in your sources later, but because we're running tight with time, I want to at least give it in a nutshell that this is the power of a resolution. When you say, I'm going to hold on to something no matter what, that's a safety gate of protection. It's a gate. And that helps you, that God forbid, you won't be vulnerable and you won't fall. So it's interesting because a lot of times people are afraid of commitment. So they want to say like, I'm going to try to daven, I'm going to try to keep Shabbat, or I'm going to try, whatever it is, which is always better to try than not to try. But there is something so powerful and revolutionary about saying, I'm going to take even this one thing. You don't have to say even the whole Shabbat if someone's starting out. You say, there's this aspect of Shabbat, I'm going to light candles no matter what. When you again, something can happen, but when you hold on to something like a safety rail, like a gate, it's your fence. It's unimaginable, how that can change your life. I mean, we have examples even in the war, some of the recent stories, miraculous stories that happened. I shared it with our group, I believe. The young fellow who, no matter what, was putting on tefillin every day, even if it wasn't the same time, and wrapped his tefillin, right before they were shot by a Hamas ambush in Gaza. And his friend said, I'm going to start to put on tefillin too. He was just amazed by what happened. And stories that go on and on. Even the one individual who just started to follow the code of Jewish law about putting on shoes with the right foot, the left foot, tying the left foot, and then the right foot, and he was like, with the soldier boots, it's like a whole thing. And he was in like Re'im, he was like in the south in one of the early days of the war, and he said, oops, I didn't do that today. So he untied his shoes and started again, and while he was bending down at this bus stop in the south, these bullets literally whizzed right over his head. So I mean, you can't imagine when you make a safety fence, I'm just trying to hone in this point. I'm not telling you what it should be. We all have to do our own cheshbon nefesh. I could tell you one thing that the previous Rebbe said, that what we should do is take on one resolution of a positive mitzvah and one of a negative, of a prohibitive commandment, and one just of a positive behavior. So that's the parameters if you want to know what you can do in Elul in a very delineated way. So a positive mitzvah, for example, could be something of prayer, of Torah study, right? Anything that's considered positive. And a prohibitive, for example, could be, let's say, something that you have a hard time with on Shabbat not doing. There's so many halachot of Shabbat. Let's say, I'm going to try from now on not to do this particular thing, which is so hard. Even something like putting water on a stain on Shabbos, you're not supposed to do. And it's such an instinctive thing to do. I'm just giving, a small example. So a positive, a negative, and a positive behavior would be something like smiling more, giving more compliments, like a positive behavior, calling a grandmother or somebody, else in your life, etc. Okay, so we were just there on the safety roof and various forms of forbidden plant and animal hybrids. Talking also about judicial procedures and penalties for adultery, for the rape or seduction of an unmarried girl, and for a husband who falsely accuses his wife of infidelity. The Parsha also includes laws governing the purity of the military camp, the prohibition against turning in an escaped slave, the duty to pay a worker on time, to allow anyone working for you, man or animal, to be able to eat on the job. These are all mitzvot in the Parsha. The proper treatment of a debtor, the prohibition against charging interest on a loan, okay, the laws of divorce, the penalty of 39 lashes for transgression of a Torah prohibition, and the procedures of yibum, levirate marriage, chalitza, removing of the shoe if the brother-in-law doesn't want to marry her, and kitetse concludes with, remember what Amalek did to you on the road. on your way out of Egypt. Okay, so we have 4 minutes left. What can we do in 4 minutes, right? Okay. So Kitetse and El, the question is, are you a warrior, right? Are you a warrior? So conquer and elevate the negative. The Torah opens up with Kitetse la Nechama alay Baka. When you go to war on your enemies, and Hashem will deliver your enemies into your hands, and you take his captives. Not that they take your captives, you take his captives, okay? And you see among the captives a beautiful woman, you desire her, you may take her for yourself as a wife, with all of these parameters, which hopefully the Jewish man will come to his better senses. I mean, if he still wants after 30 days, she can convert and he could marry her, but the Torah says this may lead to like having a hated wife and may lead to having a rebellious son, etc. It's not advised. Okay. Likutei Sichel Volume 2, which is the Rebbe's teachings, why does it say when you go to war, alay vecha, which means on top of your enemy? How do you say in Hebrew that you go to war? Kitete le'milchama imoy vecha. When you go to war with your enemy, you don't go to war on top of your enemy. So what does that mean, right? So this is a very famous Hasidic teaching, which is that in order to achieve victory, you have to gain higher ground. You have to be on top in order to gain victory. We must never stoop to the level of evil to fight it on its own terms. Very, I think, relevant for today. In the words of our sages, one who wrestles with the filthy person becomes dirtied as well. Rather, we should rise above it, affirming our belief that there is no true existence other than God, and that nothing contrary to his goodness and truth has any real power. Okay, so the Alter Rebbe now explains this in our spiritual service. I mean, on a just simple level, it's like saying that you always, have to be on higher ground, so that means never go down to the tactics of evil.
It's all around us.
Don't negotiate with terrorism. This is exactly it. You got to be over it. You have to be on it. You're not with it. I mean, you're on top of that. That's a whole nother, plateau. But spiritually speaking, right, the idea is that you have to go to battle on your enemy. That means you have to be proactive spiritually, which connects again to the gate making. The secret to success in any battle is being proactive, initiating. And that is the idea of making a gate. That's the idea of not that I'm going to wait until this year's challenges overwhelm me and I'm feeling like all of these temptations of my evil inclination, and now I have to fight that. Oh my gosh, how am I going to battle with all this stuff that my Yetzer Hara has, just sprung in front of me? No. You go out to battle. You start the war, and you say, right, I'm going to be proactive. These are my resolutions for this year. I'm going to try to arm myself with as much Torah and mitzvot so that I don't become the victim, so that I am on my enemy. I always want the upper hand. It's such a, message, and that's how you're guaranteed victory. Vishavita shivyo, you'll get his captives. That means we have to learn from the evil inclinations tactics and utilize it for holiness. So Rav Naftali Rapshis will conclude in another 2 minutes. So he was a very mischievous, wild little boy who became a great Hasidic Rebbe, Rav Naftali Rapshis. So his father once told him, he was like 4 or 5 years old, he said to Naftali, he said, you should learn from your Yetzer Hara. You have to learn from your Yetzer Hara's tactics. He said to Naftali, look how your Yetzer Hara, your evil inclination, doesn't give up, right? Keeps on getting at you. So Naftali, he quipped back. He was a very smart little boy. He answered his father, yeah, he said, but my Yetzer Hara doesn't have a Yetzer Hara stopping him. So anyhow, he ended up becoming a great Hasidic Rebbe. But the idea is that, like we said in the month of Elul, the king is in the field, right? But ani ledodi, I need to go out to my beloved. All the 13 attributes of mercy are here. Hashem's ready to embrace us and give us all of our requests for the coming year, but we do kitetse. You still have to go out of your house. You have to initiate, right? You have to go out of your comfort zone, get the upper hand by making a gate, a fence of a good resolution, and you are guaranteed that you will then become victorious. Okay, just to the 30 days that this beautiful captive is in the home of the Jewish man while he's like processing and trying to get some emotional mastery. Actually, Hasidic teachings tell us, we always read this during the month of Elul. I thought this was really fascinating. It's at the bottom over here. So Elul is a time of tshuva, right? We're doing stock taking. We're trying ani ladodi v'dodili. We're trying to get closer to God. So the Arizal taught. This is from the Arizal. The beautiful woman is the soul. Our soul is like a beautiful woman, feminine. Her capture, when it says you're going to capture the beautiful soul from the enemy, alludes to the release of the soul from the desires of the body and the evil inclination. So in the month of Elul, we capture this beautiful woman, which is our soul. And then she should weep. It says the beautiful woman weeps for 30 days. That means our soul should weep in the 30 days of Elul. That's the beautiful woman. To return to God out of a spirit of remorse and contrition for a full month, for the entire month of Elul. And it's explained that like when you have mercy on your soul, you have mercy, you have to have compassion on the beautiful woman that was in the enemy camp. You capture her, you capture your soul, right? You get it back in your hands. You're going back to the Virgo state, the feminine, right? The beautiful soul. Have mercy on your beautiful soul, which is in so much pain. It's in galut. Our beautiful soul is in exile. It used to be under God's throne. And now it fell into all different, trappings. So we have mercy. Our soul cries. We cry with tshuva, and we are guaranteed victory. We're going to go back to the Virgo state and come back into Hashem's embrace with, blessings and all that for the new year. So all of the sources, everything I told you about building the gate, and how it's not only laws of safety, but it's also about gates of protection, like basically being proactive by making resolutions to do in Torah mitzvot, and that'll help you from falling. It's all here on your sheets. It's 12:03, so I'm gonna just gather this together into something very, very practical. The takeaway is to take that little oasis, that little time now in the month of Elul. Sit down, if it helps you, with a pen and paper, and think about how do you want this year to be better. But don't just think about it as I want a revolution. Take a resolution. Write down what is something positive mitzvah, prohibitive commandment. What is something that I can, it doesn't matter how tiny, but I'm going to hold on to it. It's going to be such a it's going to be such a gate rail, like it's going to be strongest metal possible. No one's going to be able to fall through that gate, through that safety roof. I'm going to make it like ironclad. When I say this thing, I want to hold on to it with all of my koach, and may that literally protect us, right? And all of our loved ones. And besides for that, making a positive resolution, it's also to exercise unconditional love, because we talked about the rebellious child, it's supposed to be a reward to study it. So deep breaths, right? Deep breaths. And is there any battle that we're experiencing? This is the parsha of battle. When you go out to battle, is there a battle we're experiencing internally or with someone else externally that we could hopefully work on our emotional mastery so we can come to a place of more love and compassion and forgiveness, also for ourselves, for the child within ourselves and for others. And through this, we are guaranteed that the future of this child will be good. And this child will come back to that chain, to that sharsheret, Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah. May it be immediately now that this year, all the lost children, all of Am Yisrael should be gathered here with Mashiach Tzidkenu speedily.